Hello, class. So let's say you did this rendering and you don't want to wait through everything else again, but you want to make a window, look like it's glowing, like its lights are on. I'm going to show you how to do that. The reality is you might do this because you might be using rendering from another piece of software or a photograph or whatever the case might be. And this is a few simple steps to be able to make it look like it's a nighttime view without having to go back and re-render it or if you have it or otherwise. So it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my layers. I'm going to select the rendering, which is what on this guy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the window I'm going to work with, and I'm just going to use this window, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to go to my polygon lasso tool, which you might have to click and hold here, and select this. And I'm going to select the window, and I'm going to copy it ultimately so I can work on it. And I always like to copy things. It's going to help make editing this window easier, I think, if I copy and put it on a new layer. But I never like changing an original. I'd rather make a new layer of a piece or the whole thing if I need to, and just save it so I can always go back to the original if I need to. So I'm just going to Control C to copy and Control C to paste, and it pasted it right on top so we don't even notice anything is happening. But I'm going to do the window and the window frames, okay? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, I'm going to go to Curves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this channel right here and I'm going to set it to red. And I'm going to pull up on this red really high. And we can see it's made that whole bank sort of a red color, which of course is not what we want. We want a yellowish probably. And so I'm going to go to green, and a little bit of green mixed in there is going to turn that to yellow. And you're going to sit here and play with these adjustments until you get the sort of color range you want. You probably need less green than red, and the more you pull it down, the darker this will get. The reality is I'll come back and make final tweaks and adjustments afterwards, but I just want to get it basically like it's glowing so far. So I'll say okay, and now, I mean, that's going to be the biggest step. It looks pretty good there. Now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to make a layer mask. I purposely did the frames because the frames want to sort of reflect this and glow a little bit, but of course they don't want to be the same as the interior window. So I'm just going to hit my make layer mask here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my paintbrush, I'm going to set my color to black, and I'm going to set my opacity to 50%. And so what I'm going to do is, alternatively, I could use a 50% gray, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this paintbrush, get about the set the paintbrush size to about the size of your window frames, which in my case is about 4. And I'm going to click on a frame. If I hold Shift, I can draw a straight line between those 2 points, and I'm just going to sort of trace out the frame. And we'll see the frame gets slightly darker, but the frame, although it's darker than the glowing is here, it's brighter than it would be if I didn't put any glow on it at all. So it'll sort of add that sort of tonal quality to this image. The last thing we'll want to do to get some light coming out of here is sort of make this window glow a little bit and sort of reflect on these elements that sort of surround it. Now I use lighting techniques already, so we're seeing some of that already from some light I have in way off to the side, but I want to add a little bit more for this window. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to make a new layer, and I am going to control click on the layer below it just to get that same selection set. Alright, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to select, I'm going to go to modify and expand. And I ran a test, so I happen to know on mine 20 pixels is going to be about right, but and you're going to see it's going to expand the pixel set to include an area approximately that much larger than your window. You might have to use a different number than 20. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to go to modify again, but I'm going to go to feather, and I'm going to put the same number in the feather radius as I just expanded it. So in this case it was 20, so I'm going to say keep 20 and say OK. And what I'm going to do is I want to select my foreground color to be something that shows up here. So I'm going to go to my eyedropper, I'm going to say that yellow will be nice, and I'm going to go edit, fill, foreground color, and say OK. And it sort of has pushed this sort of glow onto it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my layer to the background. Actually, that's going to be not right. I'm going to move it to here. And how do I want to do this? So I'm going to make sure that that layer is above it. I just pulled it around to really see what happened. And I think what I want to do now is I want to control click the layer below it to select that window part again and just delete that away so I get my original window glow. And of course it's too bright now. I didn't know exactly how it's going to come out. So I'm going to come up here and turn the opacity down to something that makes the glow feel right. It's probably going to be turned down quite a bit. And then lastly, I'm going to make some choices. So for example, this roof is actually overhung quite far, so the glow shouldn't go above the window. So I'm just going to go to my polygon lasso tool again. I'm going to select the window edge pretty far wide around and even way up here and select it out. I'm going to hit the delete key so the glow doesn't go up on the roof. And there we go. I've got sort of this window sort of glowing a little bit more now. And I can, once I've sort of done that, I can come through here and I can make adjustments to maybe make it match the rest of my thing a little bit better. So maybe that window wants to be brighter, maybe the contrast wants to be down so the glow starts to match what I'm using in other places, just like that. I can also do other things like hue saturation might also work, so I might need to lighten it a little bit because the yellow was too yellowy, so just like that. And and I might go back and forth. Okay, well now that I've done that, maybe this needs to get a little brighter, just like that. And depending on how you're doing a rendering, you can play these things up. I'm going to go other lectures about how you might make it off of realistic to add texture, which this window can also work quite nicely in. But there we go. If I zoom out, now this window looks like it's glowing. I used 2 layers for that, so if I turn it off, see it's dark there and there, turn it on, it comes on. This whole video took me about 6.5 minutes, when that's with me talking and things like that, so that was a lot less time than re-rendering this whole building or putting a light in even. So that's a quick trick that can use anywhere. I hope you have fun with it, and of course you can go and even do other windows too. So before I finish this drawing, I'm going to do one more video, which is just adding finishing touches and all the other good stuff that needs to go along with this. So I'll see you in that video.